Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another scourge of the Shires. Um, I think that thumbnail is appropriately used for what's be talking about tonight. Um, I wanted to give it a couple days um gap between the protests to see what the reaction is, and it's a good thing because tonight Keir Starmer tweeted out a um I guess it's somewhat of an announcement of investment in this country and its country's future, and it uh, it's something which I didn't think they would announce immediately. Oh, hello, Castrian. Hello, welcome. So let me just share the screen here so we can all see, because it's pretty I mean, it's pretty diabolical. He's a diabolical person. So here we are. Um, I'm determined to deliver growth, create wealth, and put money in people's pockets. This can only be achieved by working in partnership with leading businesses like BlackRock to capitalize on the UK's position as a world leading hub for investment. And there you go. I believe that's Larry Fink there. He's met. Um, and so, it has played out as what I had imagined. Um, as I thought would happen. The purpose of the budget, particularly around farmers and farms, is to create and this is a generational thing where um, farmers will no longer be able to own land, own property, and that land itself could only be bought up by the big multinationals. And there's really only there's only a couple players in town. Um, and the obvious one here is, of course, BlackRock. So this is sort of confirmed what I had suspected. And so let's just have a little look into BlackRock for a second. So people might remember that BlackRock um, were buying up land and properties in America. Let me just see if I can uh, find an article. Unfortunately, the algorithm is not on my side. When I type in farmland with BlackRock, it comes up with the verified fact checkers. Um, but if I try DuckDuckGo, hold on a sec, they tend to filter out the bullshit. Yeah. Last time I was on here, we had our election stream, and that was pretty fun. Um, so it all worked out well for, I guess, the Americans and people on our stream. They avoided the Kamala Harris and the army of millennial condescending women that would have followed. So I am happy for them, and so here we go. Um, BlackRock. BlackRock is known in America for purchasing um, American homes for rent. Um, so 6.7 of American homes um, are uh, are owned by BlackRock. Um, I mean that's the last date from the December 2023. So it's not. Um, they are invested. They like to make investments in properties. And one thing we know about this, this push by government is to build on green sites, and many farmers down at the protest believe that much of farmland will be purchased for the sole purpose of building on, um, and for foreigners coming to the UK, because we don't have a natural increase in birth rates or anything like that. So it's entirely for outsiders moving to the UK. So just to roll this back, this starts with the UK mini budget. Sorry, not the government's budget, not the mini budget. This one, the government's budget, Chancellor's budget, uh, was a way of changes to inheritance tax, uh, something which farmers have been exempt from for some time. Reason is due to the cost that is required for farming. Uh, Price of fertilizer has gone up drastically. The cost of um, farming equipment, plus all the regulation standards set by government, which makes it, you know, incredible. I mean, most farms where I live here barely turn a profit, or anywhere from between 10 to 30,000 a year. It is um, dire, and the new budget effectively renders them unable to pass down farms to their children, or to pass it down and to keep it in the family on generational level for the small and medium farms. And what these changes effectively comes up to is land valued up to 1 million, um, and assets up to 1 million uh, will be in the crosshair for this new policy, um, by this Labour government, and will be taxed um, upon. And we've seen these scenes by the Labour Party and its cheerleaders, um, basically saying that these farmers are wealthy, greedy, who need to pay their way. And it comes back to the same old thing that these dipshits, left wingers that don't cannot who believe when it's believe that a farmer has a land upward of value of land of upward of to 4 million pounds. Actually, that doesn't mean they're sitting on 2 to 4 million pounds, uh, you know, stashed away somewhere. And also, it doesn't mean that they produce anything like that. Um, with the land they've got, there is multiple factors um, that have been the case. I mean, uh, the land itself, which isn't that much. Where I am, you have farmland. The farm that I live next to is the one field. Bearing in mind they're tenant farmers, so they rent at the moment, and they're looking to purchase. I don't know if that's still the case with this recent government announcement. One field which is, um, in pretty medium condition. It isn't exactly great. It's used for grazing and everything. Um, one field that they're looking out to purchase is upward of 2 to 3 million. So, and this is for cattle, and cattle need vast, especially when you have a farm which is dedicated to dairy farming, needs multiple fields for rotation, and also for the size of the herd. And this comes down to the other thing: is the smaller the farm is, the really less productive it is. For farms to function, especially in dairy, like for dairy farms, it needs to be pretty large farming operations, which is which would make this current legislation make it impossible to achieve for many farms. And so we had this protest on Tuesday, and I'll just play the Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy Clarkson. Hold on a sec. I'll just play the Jeremy Clarkson interview, which he participated in with who was it? Victoria, Derbyshire.
Farmers.
Right. Are you angry?
It's difficult to be angry on somebody else's behalf. That's like being, yes, no, I'm not angry on someone else's behalf.
Right. So it's not about you. It's not about your farm and the fact that you bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax.
Classic BBC there. Classic. Oh yeah. It's not the fact that I bought a farm to avoid inheritance tax. The fact.
You told the Sunday Times in 2021 that's why you bought it.
Can people hear it in chat? If someone can just confirm. Maybe someone can hear it. Oh, cool. You can hear it.
Sorry?
BBC. Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
I wanted a shoot. Okay? That's even worse to the BBC. I wanted a shoot, which comes with the benefit of not having to pay inheritance tax. Now I do. But people like me will simply put it in a trust. And so long as I live for 7 years, that's fine. And as my daughter said, you will live for 7 years. You might be in a deep freeze at the end of it, but you will live for 7 years. But it's incredibly time consuming to have to do that. And why should all these people have to do that? Why should they?
Yeah, I mean, any arguments by the O'Brien crowd and the other, cheerleaders of this disgusting regime, that says this is a increase the volume a bit. That's Max. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I mean, what he's saying is effectively the left, who currently claim that this is just a bunch of millionaires and wealthy landowners whinging. I mean, Clarkson is right. They can just put it in a trust. There are, and there would be loopholes around it. But at the same time, this is about family farms being passed down to generations, and they're basically just smothering these farms out of existence. I mean, and this is a deliberate, as we will we'll get on. I mean, the mouthpiece here for the state, Victoria, Derbyshire, is like, well, where's the money going to come from to fund the NHS? Again, the cursed NHS.
So one of the reasons Rachel Reeves says she brought this in is to stop wealthy people using it as a way.
No, that was the only reason she did.
Well, no. The other reason was to raise money for public services. Well, have you
Are you
seen?
listening to this?
Have you tried to get a GP appointment lately?
Yes, I
Right.
just recently had a heart attack.
Okay, so you know it's tough.
Yes,
So where should they get the money from if it's not from
from
farmers?
farmers. You hear that, everyone?
with
BBC
assets.
thinks you should be paying for everything. Which,
Mr. Clarkson,
okay,
you
do
know
you
it's
know
not the
how many
BBC's
people
view.
pay inheritance tax in this country?
It's 4% of estates.
What?
4% of estates.
4% pay inheritance tax. 96% of the population of the UK does not pay inheritance tax. After this becomes law, 96% of farmers will.
Where have you got that figure from?
Who here, can I just ask, who here is going to be unaffected by these changes? No one.
Right. Where have you got
I
the
know.
96?
100%, because as I refer back to, the threshold is up to 1 million and above of land owned by land. That is a very small amount. Land isn't cheap in valuation day if you're purchasing. And I was just going to say, let me just do a quick search. Average. I'm going to look at the average farmland, the average farm valuation of the land, because this sort of would give it into perspective here. So 54 hectares is the average. Just looking at my local. Now this does vary on location. I'll okay, hold on a sec. Sorry, everyone. Chat amongst yourselves. I'm just doing a quick calculation here. So an acre of land is now worth, on average, £8,951. So average farmland is 130 acres. So let's just do a quick calculation here so we can get a good footing of what this currently sits at. Okay, so that's £1,163,000. So yeah, the average, even the smallest farm, okay, bearing in mind 130 acres, which is average, or 54 hectares in however you want to describe this, they would be just above that threshold, and they would have to pay the full whack inheritance tax on top of already costs. I mean, in absolute truth, anything. This is the extreme example that I'm putting out here, because many small farms over the last decade have closed anyway, because as I said, the smaller the farm, the least profitable it is, and least profitable it is with the rising costs of fertilizer, the various green energy policies that have been implemented on a national but also local level as well, depending where you are in the country, and not taking into account the devolved administrations in Wales and Scotland. Um, if you were a small farm, the chances are it wouldn't be operating, or it's been merged, or someone else has bought them out and they're there as tenants. I mean, a lot of farms where I am at the moment are owned by Oxford University or the Duchy of Cornwall or Lancaster. There is actually patchworks of various control here. So this is it. Um, and the reason I called this title, The Lion in the Snow, is I've been reading this book called The Eagle in the Snow. It's not the Michael Morpurgo novel. This is a novel by a chap called Wallace Bream, who was uh, he was a librarian and curator, I think, at the Inner Temple in London, at the library there, and his works have usually known to be like essays. This is back in the 70s and 80s, or 60s, 70s, and 80s, I say. Essays and research papers and all that sort of stuff into legal matters and maybe a few history. But he did write three historical novels, which are incredible. And one of them, which I do recommend um, as his best one, is The Eagle in the Snow. And it's set in the late Roman Empire, and it's just before, just on the precipice of the first barbarians crossing into the Western Roman Empire. And then you had the wave of usurpers and like chaos and everything in the Western Roman Empire. And the story follows these two uh, you have this Christian bishop and this Roman centurion, and they go around Britain and Gaul and everything else, and you have this all these characters around them. And yet, and the Roman centurion, he's a follower of the Mithras cult, or Mithridates cult, uh, which was a common cult for Roman legionnaires to follow in the later periods. And I think it's set during the time of Valens, the Emperor Valens, around that sort of time period. And you see in that, you have all these characters and this, really well written dialogue between these characters. And you actually, I have to say, for in a very small amount of time, he's able to, really create these distinguishable, characters who you can have this sort of unique personalities about them. But one thing that's quite doom scrolly about this is that it's like watching the film Titanic or something. You know what's going to happen, and you can see the disaster coming, and it happens. And it's you have this conflicting behavior between the bishop and this Roman centurion, who well, the bishop, he is um wrong. He's sort of perceived as having the wrong method, but his heart's in the right place, right? He's a good man. He's not like a vindictive, person trying to screw over the people that he's meant to represent. Not like our current governing types. But one thing that is, you see, like, the system, the Roman system, these good men, but you see the system beneath them it just cannot function. And it's not so much the barbarians crossing, the Rhine or the Danube, or and raiding, because that's what they're there for, right? Um, they never um, they that's what they're there to function as, but it's the system and the people beneath them, the bureaucracy, that brings the whole thing into, brings it down. And also there is like this, spiritual element. I'm not talking about on the Christian or the, pagan or anything like that level, but it's just that people had sort of given up. They'd given up governing, which then led to this, to the disaster. And I was thinking, with the farmers' protest, and I have been critical. I do think that protests are, let's be honest, they are used as a pressure valve for people to go to London, protest, and it makes them feel better, but ultimately nothing is achieved. And this farmers' protest here, I think, if this is it, nothing else comes from this from the farmers' point of view, given the fact that Starmer and this government and this regime is pressing ahead, selling out this country to the highest bidder, like some cheap whore standing on the side of a street, um, then um, it would be all for nothing. The geopolitics of the Bible was incredible. Never realized until quite recently that Herod was ethnically Arab, for example. Okay, yeah, Semitic people. The Semitic peoples. Arabs, I believe, are included in that. Um, sure. Yeah. So we'll continue. Sorry, I will continue this. The rest of this.
6% figure.
Well, you've got 96%. Well, the same pace that Rachel Reeves does, from the middle of her head.
Yeah, I was just go back to my point you're making here. I mean, farmers would be disproportionately paying than any other sector, any other group, inheritance tax. Um, and Castro makes a big point. Protest only works if government already supports it. Yeah, um, that's true, and we saw this with BLM. We've seen this with multiple things where if the government today wants to institute a radical policy, they will get their client groups out onto the streets. And I believe protest is actually, I mean, it's a tool of manipulating the masses to give a false perception of popularity, but also um, um, a false perception of reality, but also almost like a threatening nature. Is to it's like the power of the mob, right? The mob is there to threaten the masses as well. It's used as a threat, more than anything else. Don't worry about it. You jumped in, thought you were talking about something else. Yeah, no, it's okay. Don't worry. I sort of go off track with these sort of stuff. I mean, I gotta say, ethnically Arab. I would. I need to check that. I know that they are all Semitic peoples at that time, uh, in the Middle East, and so I would need to double check that. But before I say, I haven't looked into it personally, so I would need to check that. But um, they wouldn't have been like the same tribe. He wouldn't have been like the same Arabs from Arabia. Bearing in mind a lot of Arabs, there was a lot of population shifts in the wake of the the rise of Islamic caliphates. But no, yeah, I mean, you had I think it was the Lucamids in Transjordan area. That was like in the Roman region. So yeah, you did have Arabs around at that time. Christian Arabs fought at the Battle of Yarmouk against the Muslims, with the Romans against the Muslims. That is true. We shall continue.
Right.
From the Sixth Form Debating Society that she was no doubt a member of,
Okay.
which
So
formed her opinions and yours.
I am not expressing opinions.
Yes.
I'm literally asking you questions. You know that, Mr. Clarkson.
I'm literally asking you a question, Mr. Clarkson. Well, she's asking it in a leading way. I mean, she really is like a scummy, incompetent journalist. This one, absolutely. I mean, Victoria Derbyshire is like one of the most condescending cows on the planet. Anyway,
Right.
So, what is your message to this government?
Please back down. Please.
And get the money from where?
Well, they've got 40 billion. I'll tell you where you get the. Walk into any of the offices around here. If you don't understand what somebody's job is, fire them.
And how
The civil
far-
service. Civil service is too top. You know that. I must get on.
yeah, 100%. Where would the money come from for the NHS? We just don't get rid of the NHS. I mean, at this point, I'll stop sharing now, everyone. At this point, the NHS is it should be abolished. At this point, it is just it's used as a convenient way to medicate and basically turn this country into a nation of dependence on therapeutic, practices. I mean, this country and its people are. I mean, they're like like a heroin addict, craving and clawing for their next fix, and that's how they behave with the NHS. And I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of people are, NHS mad, and it's they've broken the people, they've broken them. It's effective, I'll give it that. I mean, it has, it produces energy. Foreign climate aid, war. Well, he's ramping up. It just total incompetence here. It's he's cutting the spending. That was the other thing. Check out Iron Duke this coming weekend. He'll demonstrate how was it multiple battleships will be cut, will be scrapped. Investment in UK military is set to be reversed again. So at the same time, we are giving latest missiles to Ukraine to fire into Russia. So it's the great tactical mind of Keir Starmer strikes again. I mean, I'm not going to hate watch them. I got the James O'Brien clip here, but there was something that I wanted to sort of get on, is that the reaction I see from people online, and you have like there's like different groups here. So you have like your pseudo intellectual boomer who has like a FPBD or whatever what it is, profile on social, on your Facebook or Twitter, and they have like Rejoiner, Love EU, Retired, the type. You see them about, and they're pretty, they the day of the pillow can't come soon enough, basically, with those types. And they've been saying, they've all been gloating about the Brexit thing again, because a sizable part of the farming community voted Brexit, and they view it as a this is their own fault because we left the EU, and if we stayed in the EU, this wouldn't matter. Even though it's not so much, the inheritance tax is exorbitant, but it's the cost. There is no money in farming really at the moment. There is no money in it because of all the the uh, green energy policies instituted against farms. I mean, there's been one after attack of farms against another. It's not just Labour; the Conservatives have done this. Liberal councils have done this. They've been united on their sort of moronic green policies um, to help foreign multinationals. And Hitman is here. Sorry, Iron Duke is here. Thank you, Iron Duke. Yes, hit the like button. And so moving across, you then have your metropolitan private eye reader who's basically assumption is that we can just import food from abroad, and if they can't afford to run a farm, they should just sell it. Completely dysgenic. And I was watching a Ed Dutton video talking about these types of people, and it was quite an interesting theory. He had this view that people who live in cities tend to be more neurotic, bit more ambitious, and also a bit more side, in money making. And one of the things that this creates is like it's almost like a hyper paranoia where they always want to have that power. They crave status and power, right? And because the farms are effectively a rival castle in that financially power world, and it's something outside of their understanding and control, then it must be a threat. Um, and so this is why there's kind of this visceral hatred, and it really comes from this neurotic urbanite behavior, which has poisoned that has poisoned so much of this country and turned this country into um the hellscape we have today. I do think I don't know if it's just jealousy. I think there's also this visceral there's also this visceral ideological hatred in the Labour Party's part, and it hasn't gone unnoticed on my part that the farming that farming in this country, I presume, like in many other countries as well that have been affected like this with in Holland and other countries, is overwhelmingly made up of the native population who work in those sectors, like uh, closer to 99 to 100%, right? And how many Guardian articles, how many Labour people have banged on about um, land equity, and making the countryside, decolonize it and de-racify it or whatever, or make it free of racism, or the land is racist. All these ridiculous articles, but it does fit a pattern in which the last frontier, and this is something that's tragic in all this, and something I've sort of harped on a while, but first we lost the cities, the towns have recently gone, and I was saying that I remember saying on Iron Duke's channel a few times, the countryside is really the last frontier of old England. I mean, if the countryside goes, there is no that last vestige of old England. It is gone. Um, I mean, it's even starting to go now. I mean, this is like this is the twilight of England if this continues. And now with the announcement today of BlackRock, who are going to be, who are palling up with the Labour government, it's it's clear. it's clear where the signal's going. And this is the thing is, people like AA have said you focus on the signal, not the noise. Looking at the signal here is that he's opening us up to, globalize Britain, something that Boris would phrase, and globalized Britain is Britain without the British. Fundamentally, that's where it stands. It's without Britain. It's without England. It's going to be. They want to turn this into a nation of anywheres, and these freaks, these neurotic freaks, and vengeful boomers, and these horrendous, condescending spinsters are going to be the new overlords over this country. They're going to be the overlords over this country and the countryside. And I know people will say we got Elon Musk. I wouldn't put much hope in what's going on there. They'll be fighting their own battles. America will be too focused on what's fighting at home than what will be going on in here in the UK. Yeah, that was another story. A journalist had police at the door over a non-hate crime incident, or non-crime hate incident, or whatever the scummy little managerial phrase that goes with this thing. Hate Spurger, but an alien elite who want to see Europe destroyed by religious or ideological reason make me more sense than that alternative. Yeah. I mean, this goes back to the old thing, is that farming itself, what separates the eras, and not talking about or civilizations a bit, or what makes and breaks a civilization is where man goes from hunter gatherer to farmer. And when you're farmer, you're not only are you holding the land, but the person who controls the food supply in all circumstances, because that's life. Controlling the food is you're controlling life. You are maintaining life, and also you're maintaining nature's balance. It is a very powerful position, and these neurotic urbanites and globalists are they cannot fathom it. They are disgusted by it. And I also think, expanding on Ed Dunn's theory on this, it also does play to modern liberalism, right? If you look at the modern liberal society we live in, it doesn't value life. It doesn't value heroics. It doesn't value any of these virtues. In fact, it values like the exact opposite. It encourages death. It encourages nihilism. It encourages the worship of the outsider. It encourages the isolation of one person's to one's people. It encourages all these anti-civilizational values, which, to my knowledge and memory, I do not believe this has been occurred anywhere else. And this, the thing is that all one uniting aspect about man, and there isn't many, is that all civilizations have worshipped a cult, either of the sun or relating to the sun, which is that of life. And farming has always played a part of that. It's played a part of that in the in the crescent, in the Far East. It has played a part of that in um, throughout the ancient world, Rome, the foundations of Rome has been its grain, its herds, cattle herds, its agricultural life. I mean, throughout most of man's history, cities have. I mean, the majority of the people have lived in the countryside. Cities were the exception, not the rule. And today we have. It's been the opposite. We have these huge metropolitan centers and this countryside that is, that they want to take away. And so I do think it fits the liberal mind perfectly that there is like this fundamentally anti-human, um, lunar mentality to this, because ultimately they don't like life, they don't value life. And you can look at the your average green movement, right? Um, in today's world, it's never about life or um, any of this sort of thing. It's solely about the self, um, under the guise of freedom, but it's yeah, in the Middle Ages, about 95% lived in the rural areas. That's true. And I mean, I could go on about how evil Starmer is, but I think Starmer, he is poison. But what he's but really, what is showing is that his agenda is just not going to stop. He is hell bent. Um, I do hope that there is more further action the farmers can do. They could maybe look at what's gone on in France and Holland to show the government that they're not, that they aren't going to go quietly into the night while the English countryside is sold off to the highest bidder of a faceless corporation. We shall see. Um, but yeah, that's my thought on that. Can't throw a punch. Yeah, no, you can't throw a punch. Mm. It's also on the question of is this our fight? I know a few have taken upon themselves to get involved politically. You had the people at the Homeland Party who I saw on television. You had Left Seaters, Reform, people down there. A couple of our guys were down there, and I know people like AA and stuff have said, well, maybe on this occasion we should keep our distance. And that this is not necessarily our fight. I would say that this is if you're someone who is I think given what we know now, that this is a fight for the survival of England. This is it. There isn't a backup. There isn't, they're in the countryside now. There is no village or hamlet we can retreat to. This is something that we have to support the farmers on, and politically we have to get involved with to combat what's going on here and support whatever actions the farmers take. And I do support them at this point. And the sooner this illegitimate government is removed, the better. And to be honest, I'd go for a military coup, invasion by Trump. I this kid at point, I don't mind. I just want these fucking scumbags gone. These absolute evil, twisted fuckheads. Yeah, we were promised, Mighty Balzac. We were promised Mr. Grey. we were promised um, we were promised, the next coming of John Major, and instead we just got Mr. Hatchet. The liberal order's Mr. Hatchet, and he is, cutting everything up like a psychopath with a knife. Oh yeah, by the way, his father was also a farmer. He's now gone from toolmaker to father. This guy is fucking unbelievable. He's a world-class analyst, but he's not a fighter. It's unfair look to him for leadership. Yeah, true. He doesn't want to look for leadership. As I say, the leadership of this, well, I think this particular fight isn't with Homeland. It isn't with any particular group, Labour seaters. Us here, it's with the farmers. They're the ones that are going to be leading it. They're the ones that are going to be there. They care for this country as much as anybody else. They do care for this country. They are genuine patriots, and they um I trust fully the leadership that will come from that in further protests and demonstrations, whether it be organized through Countryside Alliance or some other group that forms whatever. I am fully confident, and I will support them. This is my channel. I will support them. I hope my friends and people I know will also support them. I think they will, particularly against the likes of BlackRock. I may even, I know a few farms who are engaging in protests here. I may even, approach them and talk about the BlackRock situation, because I think they need to be aware. And then if anyone here knows any of the farmers, or knows of a farm locally or farmers locally to them, probably should also make them aware of BlackRock and these tactics that were instituted in America to sort of purchase land and properties, because this is the worst theories. I mean, bearing in mind you have at this moment, we're in the stage, right? We're in the stage where the BBC journalist Victoria Derbyshire and that Mariana Spring, fact checker, saying no, BlackRock are not going to purchase land and everything. That no one's forcing you to sell land. We're at that stage, and I want to cut them off at the pass before. I would hope farmers, we can cut them off at the pass before we get to the stage of, well, actually, yes, BlackRock is going to be taking your land because you can't afford to farm it, and that's a good thing. We're going to cut them off before we get to that bit, so they can whinge and cry about misinformation. Fuck them. Fuck them and their misinformation. Fuck them, mouthpiece. They're the enemy of this country. Away. So that's why I would say to people, contact your farmers and everything, and just show them the signals that this government's sending off. Uh, Gut instinct, evidence-based research. I don't care. I'm. Why would I listen to the enemy? The people organising against farmers. Their views on this. Why would I? Should we listen to the BBC's views on, or any of these media outlets who have investments or connections to BlackRock? He said himself he's not a leader, but people are desperate and they naturally put him in that position, and he feels obliged. Just my 2 pence. Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to the whole zero seat stuff at the election, which is something he did lead in some ways, the online campaigning of it. But I mean, he'd made like a great high priest, or sort of like a leadership in that way. But yeah, this fight is for the farmers. They I just my hope is that they aren't going to, give up. And this is something I the only good thing that I realized was that a lot of the usual suspects didn't turn up at this protest. Tommy Robinson crowd didn't really turn up. The Maya Tulsi, the flag waving Israeli, uh, old Persian Shah waving flag crowds didn't show up. So this wasn't like hijacked or anything. This was by Sivnats or any other sort of group, you know. So I'm pleased by that, and I am pleased, and I hope they can organise something uh, to continue this fight. I have to be careful what I say on this channel, guys. Hello, Connor. How are you doing? So, yeah, I was going to say, if anyone's got any questions for me or anyone that wants to uh, say anything, you can dump it in chat. That's all good. I might just have a couple more minutes to respond. And while I do that, I have been, without sounding a bit very posty here, I do think further protest action is, it, it it just going down to London isn't enough at this point. It needs to be, um, pro farmers, making hitting the pockets of the government more so. I mean, yes, it would be disastrous for them, but it has to be. Um, the farmers have to sort of take on the government at this point, because they're just not going to stop. Yeah, and it has to be coordinated. The funny thing about the farming, the farming sector and previous protests and fuel protests. I remember the fuel protests. What was it? Over 20 years ago now. Um, they were. Excuse me. Oh, they were very coordinated in that, and that was against the Tony Blair government, and that did nearly bring them down. Does Starmer have any kind of positive vision, ideology, philosophy? What is his school of thought, so to speak, or is he just an NPC? No, the guy is fucking android. I mean, he stated before he has no dreams, he has no vision. He is the perfect gig man. He is the using the Carline sense. He is the perfect establishment man. He's a perfect gig man. He would be an excellent character in that. What was it in that sort of novel and film Brazil? Like the perfect. He would be the perfect. Still. Could the unions help? RMT, etc. Or they fully owned and operated by Labour Party? Yeah, no union. Every single union, RMT, all of them that have affiliations with the Labour Party, even the National Farmers Union, are all. I mean, they are just all controlled opposition. They are all, and this goes back to the thing, Mighty Balzac, is that in this current regime, a union or movement which is allowed to operate as such has to be loyal to the regime itself. So yeah, all of them, all of them, um, would even if they, and this is the thing, if they got involved with any farming protest to continue, what they would do is they'd just grind it down, wear it out. They'll do the biddings of the government. Yeah, modern man at its finest. Yeah, he is. Starmer is. He is the living embodiment of the nihilistic modern British man. You know, in many ways, he actually does embody the worst. He is the worst aspects. He is a he. You know, he is pure chaos. He is pure chaos. He is a um he he looks upon Britain like many of his type and his background, and he just sees constant power imbalance. How can I disrupt the system? And instead, he is just he's an arsonist. You know, he's an arsonist in a mighty museum, and that's what he is. You know, he cannot build anything. He doesn't value anything. He just wants to destroy. These and his people, they just want to destroy, they want to laugh, they want to destroy some more, they want to laugh some more, and over again until there's nothing. And he's completely dead. And I agree. Yeah, he's dead, completely dead behind the eyes. He's a sociopath, and he's um you know, I was going what I was saying earlier about neurotic, peak neuroticism. I mean, he is like that sort of mentality. Um, he the biggest thing they fear is losing power and not being and status in society. That's something a lot of these people fear. And if you're around them, I mean, I was around for a while of journalists and people in those sorts of circles, and it's very much true. You have like these house parties and everything, and you remember that tweet by Cummings when asked by a friend of ours, rate of Maven, saying why was it that Boris Johnson wanted to why is it that he allowed all these immigrants from Africa and Asia into the country under the Tory government on these legal visas? He responded that he's claimed that Boris said he wanted friends. He wanted to rebuild those friendships and those friends and dinner parties, at the Financial Times and stuff. And that's what it is. The modern liberal man. It is about power and status, and that's not necessarily like out of the ordinary because that's something that's always existed. But what they do is, you know, the in previous generations and previous eras, it was within the confines of the nation. So they would do this within the nation, and they wouldn't be attacking the nation. But it genuinely is like it. I mean, this is where liberalism is genuine virus. It attacks the body. They attack the own nation. They would see, and they have turned London into a living hellhole where it is no longer I mean, it's just a biomass of foreign names and people and ideas. But as long as they get to go to their tea parties in Richmond and, with their barrow boy friends and, city lifestyle and metropolitan values, then they're happy. This is why they are complete psychopaths, and they shouldn't be governing anything. In fact, they in my perfect scenario here, they would they would be branded on the forehead so everyone can know what a psychotic people they are. I mean, in fact, I'll put them in asylums. I would say that genuinely they are a danger to society, and probably should be locked away for the rest of their lives because they're dangerous. They are a danger to the people. They put people in harm's way for selfish and fantasies. Reasons which are not grounded in reality. Unison is 2024 LGBT of the year. Yeah. No, I was going to say they're all can't trust unions. It's a rot in the soul of the nation. Yeah, and the thing though is, it's not. It it's culminated over the last 80 years at this point, if we're honest. This is a long, grim, and what you're getting is you're sort of getting to the point of just the peak rot, where the system isn't working. And it's why things like populism and populist messaging is what people have been yearning for in across the world. But ultimately, people, the what you're having is like towards the end of the Soviet Union, and I might do like a reaction video to this where it was Adam Curtis, and he didn't give any narration. It was just like looking at stock footage and footage of late Soviet Union, and what you have is you have the system where you have infrastructure which isn't working, you have propaganda which isn't working, and you have this really bizarre relationship with the Soviet population and its ruling elite at the Politburo. And every single message and propaganda they put out, people just don't believe it. But it's like they're stuck in this amber haze where we know it's bullshit, but nothing's happening. And it's a very, very strange position to be stuck in, where it's all bullshit. It's all nobody buys into it. Nobody buys into the system, but it's still limping on. And the thing though is, you can't govern like that because something has to give. The pressure just builds up. Something has to give. Conservatives are an Epstein ring and have been for a long time. Labour just hate Britain, it seems. Yeah, I mean the Conservatives are, just creeps. They're just creeps, and they follow the humiliation ritual. Labour have genuine hate for this country. I mean they're both. Do you know what's funny? Labour represents the nihilistic outlook of this country, and Conservatives represent the hedonistic and immorality of liberal values of this country. As two together, they are pretty despicable forces. Pretty despicable. And you can apply the same things for liberal Democrats and SNP and all the other minor parties. I mean, even Reform. I'm not happy with Farage. He's given up on the. He's sort of gone. He's sort of gone down the rabbit hole of integration again. That's peak madness. That's just submitting to madness. That evidence speaks to itself, Farage. The fact that UKIP under yourself and Brexit Party and Reform was even popular just goes to show that any reconciliation at this point, or integration, or whatever you want to call it, Farage, isn't achievable, because otherwise the BNP wouldn't have achieved what it did in the early 2000s, and you wouldn't have achieved on the back of their efforts what you did in the 2010s period. But He doesn't want to listen to kooky people with podcasts. So you know, have your little integration rallies, see how far it gets you, buddy. Wish him luck. I mean, nothing will come of it, you know. I mean, the problem with Farage is he always limits himself. His support is always capped at, national elections, what, about 4 million, 5 million? More could be achieved, but he just caps it. He handcuffs himself to the railing. Which is disappointing because it just demonstrates a lack of vision and a lack of will. And he's not it. Anyway, I think I talked long enough about this. Thank you everyone for coming on, listening to this, people listening back to this. Check out all my previous videos on this channel. Tune into iDuke's channel on Saturday for the Splendid Isolation stream. And you can follow me on Twitter and all that sort of stuff. And I will see you all next time later on.